Okay, guys, this is going to be my review of the Christopher Nolan film Insomnia. And I really enjoyed it. I think that kind of aspect of keeping you on your toes was very much there. I was on my edge of the seat, edge of the couch, or edge of the seat, or edge of the car, whatever, wherever I am watching the film throughout. Because I think while in addition to the film being great, obviously, the performances are great. I think that is another thing. Heavily, heavily going, towards the film. Is that, the performances are great, especially, being able to see and, portray someone who is going insane. And I think Al Pacino does play that great. Kind of this idea of like, okay, you started out as a confident cop, a kind of cop that obviously Ellie looks up to, and I think having that kind of contrastment of a cop that is popular and known for his great skill as a detective, and having someone look up to you, and you starting to lose your mind is an interesting kind of thing. And I think that kind of psychology of this film and the psychological thriller aspect of this film is very interesting. Of what happens when you're practically put in the same situation that the person you're investigating is in. What happens when you kill someone by accident but have no proof to, prove that it's an accident? As you're investigating someone who killed someone on accident. And I think that's a very interesting premise in how, being that he's such a revered cop, being that he's no, I'm making a video. You do. Making a video.
Where are you, Zach?
Making a video.
What? You're in here?
Making a video.
Oh, sorry. I love you. You making me there? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for bothering.
So I think having him, kind of slowly lose his mind over something that you can see someone lose their mind. It's not like they made some weird reason to kind of make him slowly fall, to descend. No, I think by accidentally killing someone, but yet they established earlier on in the film that Detective Dormer did have tiny beef with the guy he accidentally killed. And I love that they sort of established that wasn't an accident. And I love that towards the end, Dormer starts to realize, maybe it wasn't. Maybe my conscience says, you know what, because I think this idea of, okay, at the split second, he could shoot. And maybe I knew it was him. And maybe my conscience just said, pull the trigger. But maybe I didn't. Maybe it was an accident. And exploring that. And I love this kind of cat and mouse idea of, Walter, and because he apparently killed, Kay on accident. I think exploring this idea of, on the one hand, Detective Dormer knows who killed Kay, but on the other hand, the person who killed Kay knows that, Dormer killed his partner. And I think that kind of psychology of, you so badly want to out him, but he so badly wants to out him. So in some ways, the oddest thing in the world, they have to work together. And I think they also deal with a bunch of things. They deal with guilt. They deal with loss. They deal with just the psychology and the mental side of being a cop or having killed someone. They do, because I think you see, with Dormer running through his head, running through what it was like over and over again, and was it a mistake? Was it on purpose? And you see him, and I love when he's on the street and he just mentally thinks there's a car behind him, runs out of the way, sees no car behind him, no car ahead of him. It's these little mental things, and he can't sleep, and he thinks there's too much light, and there's not a lot of light, and I think it's these simple psychological things that make this film very interesting, because I think what keeps you on your seat is it takes the twist of a detective case and flips it on your head, because very quickly on you figure out who's the murderer. The thing is proving he's guilty, but also dealing with the guilt that you killed your partner and made it on the crime. And by adding that girl detective Ellie in the mix, I think was a good addition, because it's that middle head, it's that middle ground, whose middle ground is solve the case. And you have someone who she looks up to, pays close attention to, in some way, in some facet, losing his mind. And you see again throughout the film, they constantly call each other, they constantly, they've been spying on each other. And I think this idea of they can use each other because again, they're their best hope. What happens when a detective's best hope at getting in trouble is to help the murderer? That premise is so interesting. And same thing with murder. What if the murderer's best hope at not getting arrested or in not getting caught is to help the detective? And I think that, but yet at the same time, they both want to out each other. And at the same time, Walter's still always one step ahead of Dormer. And you see, it's very, that mental psychology. And I think right from the beginning, when he kills his partner, and when his partner wants him to get away, and his partner dies thinking it wasn't an accident. And I think that also added to the trauma. That also added to the trouble of really that psychology of, what do we do? What happens when you accidentally kill someone but have no proof in the world to back up that it was an accident, on top of you yourself are not sure you killed him because it was an accident. And I love that early on they established also that he can't sleep, that because of that guilt, because of that loss, because of that, in some ways, survivor's guilt, he can't sleep. And I love that his final lines are, Ellie's trying to save him, and he just says, let me sleep, let me sleep. And that was just great, because it was so true. Like, he wanted to sleep, and I think it's those little things, those little subtle things they call back later in the film that really makes it interesting. And where I think the case solving the murderer's girl is important to the film. It's important because how do we prove he's innocent? That's another thing. Or how do we prove he's guilty? But while covering your name. And I think I love that he dies, but yet he doesn't want the lie coming out. And I love his reasoning is don't lie. Don't be dishonest, because you live with that for the rest of your life. And you understand that because that's what, he lived through. That's what Detective Dormer lived through. He lived with this idea of lying. And I love this idea. I love when Walter says, you did it. The case is over. And because he set up Kay's girlfriend, if Detective Dormer really wanted to, he can let it all go. He can let it all in. He can leave. He can go back to LA. He can live his life. But because that psychological guilt, that psychology of, I did something wrong. I did something that I'm not sure about. And because of that, because of something, that because he was a revered cop, because he was a cop that knows what to do, because he's a cop that's been on big, heavy cases, so he's never really experienced. Well, he's experienced people dying. He's experienced people who are hurt, but he's never experienced that himself and never experienced what it is like to feel that. And I think establishing a cop who slowly goes from confident, okay, this is just going to be another case, who is confident throughout the first quarter of the film, but slowly not into madness, but slowly deteriorate as a cop, but slowly become more vulnerable as where he's not just this confident cop, but he's struggling to know what to do. Especially because Walter knows what's going on with Dormer, but also he knows that Dormer killed his partner. And so the psychology of, one hand, do I solve the mystery? Do I solve the case that he's assigned to? And he is, and you see, Detective Dormer is passionate on getting the job done. And then at the same time, he also has struggles with this idea of, do I go straight up? Do I go honest? Do I say the truth? Do I tell them, yeah, I killed my partner. On accident, though, but I killed him. But yet, Dormer has no way to back that up. Or do I let this go? Do I let the guilt go? Do I just forget about it? But you see, he can't. And I think you see that with so many people. And that's just realistic, because I think when you're looked up upon in such high regards, and you rarely make mistakes, when you do make mistakes, and in this case, a big mistake, a costly mistake, and as a matter of fact, the same mistake that Walter made. So at the same time, in some potential way, the way they kind of, almost the story is supposed to go is, our cop is in the same deep water as the villain. But in some ways it's not the same, because everybody thinks, okay, the killer just killed, that his what's his face, his Kay's girlfriend or boyfriend just killed him. So I think it's a very interesting psychological thriller. Very much discussion of what happens when you live with the guilt of an accident, but you don't know it's an accident, but you don't know how to survive with that. You don't know what it's like to be in that scenario. You know, what it's like to deal with the guilt of having murder on your hands, of someone innocent, of someone that's an accident. You don't know it's an accident. You spiral out of control, and this idea of there's options to get out of it. But can a person like Detective Dormer, who is so revered, who is so skillful, can he do what I guess needs to be done, but also what has to be done? And I think it is a character study of that, on top of that cat and mouse thing of, because I think the idea of the cat and mouse stuff of, Walter and Detective Dormer meeting each other comes from this idea of what Dormer is going on with him. Because I think in some ways seeing the detective and the murderer team up and have to work together is such a unique concept. And I think the concept and the execution is very good. And another win. A consecutive win for Mr. Christopher Nolan. Stay tuned for videos coming at you.